Hey everyone, we're just going to wait for some people to show up. Maybe not. I'm just going to let this roll. If you're on Facebook, you are getting a sneak peek into what will be a free, absolutely free webinar for managing money, managing time, and managing energy better. Well, like I say here, better than an Eskimo manages ice. But truthfully, what you're getting is the result of 20 years of research. Um, Almost 2 decades of me clunking my head up against the wall and trying to figure it out. And you're getting this unedited, uncut, and live while I'm putting it together. I'm going to take this recording, turn it into a webinar, I'm going to give it to my members. I'm going to use this as the primary anchor for how I do what I do. You're going to see a live demonstration of me going through all of the tool that actually, you know what, the number one tool that I've made that manages my time, manages my energy, and manages my money. It's going to demonstrate with money. I'll go over that when we get in there. And I'm going to be speaking about it and presenting it as one would a webinar. So I'm not really going to be interacting with comments too much. I'm not going to really be I'm not really going to be interacting with comments much. I'm not really going to be I just noticed Facebook has this stars thing. Pay to comment. Okay, so guys, if you want, so here's the deal. If you guys want this webinar, let me know in the comments. When it's done and when it's a webinar, like completed, I am going to get a hold of every single person who said that they wanted this, and I am going to send you the completed webinar. So if you want this stuff, if you want what we're talking about, let me know in the comments. Also, drop a comment if you're live or if you're watching this on the replay. It's helpful to know who's live and who's on the replay. I'm timing this so that some folks in non-American countries are able to see it. But the truth is that there might be people who are in America and just up late. So let me know where you're at. Let me know if you're watching live. Let me know if you're watching in a replay. And we are just going to get started here. I want to show you what you're going to get by sticking around. I am going to stop this, just so you guys know, I am going to stop this presentation at some point, about 3/4 of the way through. Isn't this showing up? So that the webinar still has some value. You can tell me, hey, yeah, I want the webinar. But you're going to get so much value just by being here. Just by being here. So 1 second while I look for what I'm looking for. I don't know why I don't see it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Let's see. I got my share screen up. Guys, let me know if you are. Let's try this one more time. Share screen. There we go. So here's what you're going to get. You are going to, we'll be talking about the 3 aspects of what makes a priority. And there's a reason why we need to define that. We're going to talk about 3 principles for trusting your prioritization, 3 parts of managing priorities, the 3 steps to prioritize perfectly, and how to do this all stress-free using the tool that I'm going to demonstrate. First, we're going to get into who I am, what my mission is, and how I'm going to do it. Some things about me and some details, and then talk about the real problem, which is scarcity trauma. What does that even mean? Like, that's a cool term, but what does that mean? And if you don't think that you're subject to scarcity trauma, stick around. We're going to get into how we involuntarily become a victim of scarcity trauma, how money's never about money. I'll show you the new way to do it, a bit about the solution, and then I'll just go through it. Like, so when I manage my money, I'll show you exactly what I do and why it works. And then we'll talk about some FAQs. So if you're on Facebook, thank you for joining me live on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook, if you're watching this maybe in the webinar form, actually you won't be watching this. So if you're on Facebook, I'm going to just take a little pause and begin this as if I were presenting a webinar. I am going to pull up various images and do various things throughout this process. And I'm going to stop my screen share now so that I have full video on me. Stay tuned. I'm watching comments if you guys want to say. Just going to give it a couple of minutes and then we're going to get going. Hey everyone, and welcome to this webinar where we're going to talk about how to manage money. Specifically, we're going to go through a tool that I call the Budget Blueprint. And what you're going to learn in this webinar are the three aspects of what even makes something a priority. Like, we have all kinds of ways to talk about priorities, but what are the three aspects that really make it a priority? We're going to talk about the three principles, the three things that are going to help us trust how we prioritize so that we don't have guilt, we don't have shame, we don't have anger, we don't have resentment. We're going to talk about the three parts that are required to manage priorities and the three steps that are required to prioritize absolutely perfectly. Those four sets of three things are going to be used with a tool that makes this entire process completely stress-free. So let's talk about who I am. Like, who are you listening to right now? Who are you watching? Who's this guy talking to you, right? First and foremost, it's super important for me to tell you why I'm even here. Who am I? Why am I here? Why do you care? My mission on this planet, I've realized, my purpose, and this is probably going to change a little, but the energy is here. Purpose is to end scarcity trauma globally. That brings up a whole bunch of questions. What is scarcity trauma global? Wow, that's a huge mission. Yeah, it is. I don't think I'm going to do it in my lifetime, to be honest with you. But what I can do is within 3 years, I want to help 1 million families neutralize the effects of scarcity trauma and end the conflict that results from it. If you are still seeing this video, I'm still doing that. I'm still working on that mission. A little bit more about me before I get into what scarcity trauma is and why it matters. I'm autistic. I'm also ADHD. So that means that I have an incredibly limited working memory, which is kind of like having a super small table, but it being expected to do this huge research project, or a really slow computer and being expected to, have it run quickly. It means that overload can keep me from being able to function or sometimes even talk. This causes a whole lot of relational conflicts. It causes a whole lot of issues in my life, and it's created a lot of traumatic beliefs about how I view the world that I know intuitively are just false. That's because I also have a limited bandwidth. And that means that even though I have a smaller table, let's say I clear off that whole table, I still have a smaller space to work with. If I somehow manage to create a bigger table to work with, my processing speed is just slower. I can process less in less time. The reason I'm in front of you today is because I had to build something that would make those good times, the times when I'm not overloaded or stressed out or losing my mind, 10 times more effective to compensate. This has been the result of me studying deeply psychology, finance, and how people make decisions so that I can make a better decision for myself. And when I first did this, I realized that the result is that I didn't feel any stress whatsoever. The result is that I felt like I finally could function the way that I needed to be functioning in this world. I felt that I finally had enough bandwidth to be able to do what I needed to do. I felt that I finally had enough of a sense of like ability, and that I wasn't bogged down by just trying to keep up with deadlines, make things manageable, and keep track of it. So for me, that triggered so much about what needs to happen in the world. And I didn't call it scarcity trauma at the time. I didn't even know what scarcity was. But my background, where I come from in studying in life for the first decade or two of my life, is from computer science, psychology, and user psychology. So if you're using software, for instance, what makes you want to click a button versus not? You may not think that's very important, but what these three things represent is that I can create algorithms, very counterintuitive ways to do things that are completely, at first glance, illogical. It shouldn't work. Or maybe you've tried pieces of them, but it's the order you put them in or the way that you do them. I can see all of those dimensions and be able to create an algorithm that is orders of magnitude more effective than anything that's being used. I'm able to see, because of my tech background and psych background, how those algorithms affect people at the subconscious level, even the software stuff. Like, everybody knows that an iPhone generally presents information the same kind of way. For a date, you have the same looking, selector. For one of those drop down boxes, you have the same looking thing. You can always expect the back button to be in the upper right corner. These are things that create a sense of, expectation. You can expect what's going on to be consistent. And creating that expectation and creating that consistency is my background. So when I kept trying to create a situation where I was able to manage all of my time and all of my energy and all of my resources, it became stressful, to say the least, until I was able to make that happen. And I found a lot of joy in computer science, and psychology, and user psychology. It helped me do what I'm about to show you. So what are we even talking about here? What is the problem? What is the whole idea behind scarcity trauma? Well, let's first, in order to understand how it's trauma, we have to talk about scarcity. So scarcity causes, and you'll know how by the time I'm done with this little section, scarcity causes self-harm. It causes negative thoughts, and a lot more than that. People who are I'll get into some statistics in a second. It causes conflict that leads to violence. It causes behavior that's just not like me. People act out, people do things irrationally, and so much more. And scarcity is far beyond money. It's time and energy too. But money management is the critical component. Money ends 20% of relationships. That's 1 in 5 relationships are completely ended because of money problems. It's the #1 cause of stress. 90% of people experience money-related stress. 1.1% of the American population commits suicide, ends their life because of money problems. 64% of Americans they're living paycheck to paycheck, so they don't know what's coming. They don't know how to manage it. They can't see past this check. And 72% of Americans say that they're not financially secure. That's only 28% are financially secure, and 64% are living paycheck to paycheck. And 1.1% of people are committing suicide. So this is a huge issue. What is trauma, though? One or more events that ultimately create a negatively biased worldview. That's the simplest and easiest way to put it. I haven't looked that up. That's a definition that has come from dictionary definitions and other psychology things. But one or more events that create a negatively biased worldview. So often we associate trauma with abuse or with neglect or with a lack. And we associate the patterns of trauma with survival responses. So if you didn't have enough food growing up, you have food trauma. If you didn't have enough money growing up, you have poverty trauma. If you were abused as a child, you have parental abuse trauma. And because it's connected to survival and your coping strategies have been connected to survival, it makes it really hard to give up these beliefs. So if you're noticing that maybe there's some responses in you coming up as I'm talking, take note. Scarcity, however, cannot exist if there's more than one option to choose from, and those options are able to be trusted and go against that belief. So if I believe that there's not enough food, but I always have a full cabinet, either I'm not clear on that belief, or there's proof right in front of me. There's proof in this manifested 3D reality that I have enough food. And when we have that proof, the trauma dissipates. We don't have to do a lot of work, but we do have to create a reality where it's easier to deal with the survival, or easier to deal with those situations that caused us to latch on to the coping strategy that we started to use. If you don't fully get this, don't worry. Just let's stick with the content of this webinar and you'll feel the difference, right? That feeling is what I'm talking about. Now, a thing is, until now, there has not been a tool that helps us manage scarcity, just hasn't, or its resulting trauma. As we have tried different tools and different practices and different systems, it doesn't address scarcity, it doesn't address trauma. So with money trauma, scarcity trauma being the biggest thing that we're experiencing, what is there to do? Well, first we have to understand the essence of this. I'm a philosopher at heart. I didn't go to school for it, but I definitely get to the root of things. So you might be saying, oh, we live in an abundant world, there's no scarcity. Wrong. Scarcity is inherent. We have scarce time. We only have 24 hours in a day. As a deadline creeps up, maybe you feel a little bit more rushed. Sure, you can adjust your energy, but there is a deadline creeping up. You can't ignore that. We have scarce energy. We only wake up with so much energy. Things like spoon theory or focus or even ADHD are really familiar with the fact that we have scarce energy. We have scarce space. You only have a big enough house. You only have so much room. You live in a body that's limited by space. You're not the whole world. Even in some spiritual circles, they might say you are, but look at your body. It has space. And it doesn't have more space than it has. We have scarce bandwidth as well. We can only process so much at a time. And if there's too much to process, well, we're going to get into talking about what that means. So for me, as somebody with autism and ADHD, it has some real effects. And if you have autism or if you have ADHD, it's very likely that it has these effects for you too. So scarcity is inherent. Sorry, but it is. Now, we can do a lot to move past the inherent scarcity that exists, but it is inherent. We have to accept it. And now that we have these definitions, and now that we understand that scarcity is inherent, how do you know if you have some scarcity trauma? We talked a little bit about it, but I want to be really specific because we're going to completely break this down. And by the end of this, you won't have as much of a response or reaction to scarcity. So if you believe that one or more of what I'm about to say in terms of how to prioritize is how to prioritize, you have scarcity trauma. So this is all about prioritization, what that means and how we do it better. And then I'm going to, and a tool to do it. So if you have the perspective, how do you prioritize? Needs versus wants. Who's heard of needs versus wants, right? Needs versus wants is scarcity trauma. The message that sends are that values and individuality do not matter at all. Ultimately, the result of that is we feel depressed, and pleasure, any deviation from what our needs are versus our wants, it bring us guilt. So we can't deviate. And this is proven. We have guilty pleasures. There's a reason they're called guilty pleasures, because we're deviating. The mind, however, requires distraction. It just does. It can't always be in a needs only place. That keeps you in scarcity. And it also requires pleasure. You need dopamine, you need serotonin. So if you're doing needs versus wants, and you find yourself splurging, or you find yourself deviating, or you find yourself doing more than, or things that are outside of your plan, more than you should, you have scarcity trauma. If we stick to the plan, if we stick to needs, if we're always limiting ourselves, ultimately, depression and loneliness set in. That's why it's trauma. So another thing that you might hear is just do what's relevant right now. Is this important right now? No, don't worry about it. Well, the problem with that is it creates a sense of what's urgent versus what's not urgent. It sends the message that if we only focus on what's right in front of us, we'll be fine. But that ultimately means perpetually reacting. We're not looking far ahead. We're not looking a week, paycheck to paycheck. Remember, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months. We're not looking at ways to make that stuff better. We're looking at right now, right here. What's right in front of us? And ultimately, if everything becomes urgent, if we react to everything, nothing's urgent. Everything loses its meaning. So we're going to have to deal with that. The third thing that you might hear is to live within your means. That's the most common. When I grew up, we have to live within our means. We can't want more than what we have, etc. The message that's sent with that is don't consider what you can't afford right now. So if I don't have the money for it, I shouldn't even consider anything else. That ultimately creates scarcity. It perpetuates the message that I can't afford it. I shouldn't even think about it. All of these kind of tie together, right? But they're all traumatic because as humans, we need incentive. We need incentive to endure the growth that's required in order to get what we want. And if we're not dreaming, if we're not looking past where we are right now, we get depressed. That's why depression's been on the rise, because this is the program. So what does this all mean? It means that we've been taught completely outdated models of prioritization, and there hasn't been a new model. It means that all these models are trying to do what we're going to do in this call, which is they're trying, do or do not, there is no try, they're trying to assess relevance, but they're failing worse than a 2-year-old driving a sports car. Like, really, they're crashing into everything, they're creating scarcity. All of the money management methods for these people that have scarcity trauma from you, creating more trauma. We have to. So what's the solution? We have to have unbiased relational systems that align with our values. We absolutely have to. There's no other choice. If we don't, we are going to be in a situation where we are fundamentally unable to see the forest through the trees, to see past paycheck to paycheck. Oh, hey, we actually are there already. All right, that's enough. So, okay, let's get practical. Let's get pragmatic. Let me show you how to do this. And in doing that, I know there's going to be some of you guys that are saying things like, why can't we just wing it? Why can't we intuitively budget? We don't need to stick to a budget, right? Well, here's the problem. We are biased creatures by nature. Let me show you what I mean. This is a very common question. Which one of these is longer? A or B? Which one's longer, do you think? Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you know the answer to this question. The longer line is A. No, just kidding. They're both equal. That's the answer. They're both equal. The horizontal line is equal. They're both equal. Knowing that, however, which line looks longer? Unless you're one of the 2% or 3% of the population that isn't biased at all, or that isn't subject to this bias, or can override your emotions, A looks longer. So you know about bias. You may not know what it means, I'm going to tell you. And you know that you're biased. You know that those lines are equal, but you still see the distortion, right? So there's some other phenomena like that happens, and this is why we just can't wing it. I'm going to talk about 3 specific phenomena, and then I will show you exactly what to do. So there's a bias called the recency bias. It means that anything that happens closer to now is more important or more relevant. That's why we feel urgency the way we do. It's because it's recent. It's either coming or it's coming. Think about after something that is really difficult. You want to solve that problem, but if you sleep on it, you don't. It's not as urgent. That's why sleeping on it's a good solution sometimes. Think about something that's coming up tomorrow. You think about it, stress about it. The problem when we're subject or when we're vulnerable to the recency bias, which everybody is, and we have to respond and respect time, but it's the difference between being bandwidth taxed. Write that down if you're taking notes. We're going to go over what that means in a minute. But it's the difference between being fundamentally mentally incapacitated or not. You can respond to recency with poise. We're going to talk about how. And the problem ultimately with this bias is that it creates a situation where we are prone to short-term thinking and feeling. So whatever's closer to now creates a short-term perspective. This is evidenced in psychology by the existence of a working memory. We have a short-term storage place that keeps all of our thoughts and all of the things that pop up and all the things that our mind is telling us to remember, whether from trauma or not, or the things that have entered our sphere that we need to manage. It's not until things it's not until we move into a slower pace or until we move into things not being recent or until we give it some time, that working memory goes into long-term memory or habits. The other major set of biases, and I'll put a link in the notes for you. I'll put a link underneath this video where you can look into more biases if you're interested. But the other set of biases are emotional biases. They're simply the colored lenses that we wear or the distortions in our perception, much like those arrows, that are the result of the fact that we have emotion, we have feelings. It's part of being human, right? We're biased. The problem with emotional biases is that we don't have clarity. We don't have a sense of the relationships between all these emotions, especially because the emotions that we experience closer to now are more relevant, more recent. So there's no big picture. And that plays right into the third type of biases that I'm going to talk about on this call. There's plenty more. But these are perception biases. These are things that change how we perceive. The arrows were a great example of a perception bias. A perception bias is when I receive information, how do I take it away from being neutral? If I get mad at something, I got mad because of a perception bias. If I think that something is trash, we've all heard the term, one man's trash is another man's treasure. That's a perception bias. Biases aren't bad, they just change how we perceive. So every human is biased. The problem, however, with perception biases is that we only see a portion of the big picture. We literally only see from the perspective that's charged by our emotion, that's received what's most recent, and that we've most recently processed. This means that there's no way for us to see the big picture unless we employ some other tool. Intuitive thinking through this process just doesn't work. How can it work? It literally can't. And the reason why it can't is because these intuitive biases, these biases inhibit our ability to see clearly. And we have to accept that as part of being a human being. So there is not a model that does this. All the current models, all the current programs, productivity systems, decision-making systems, assess from a skewed perception. They don't take these biases into account. And they expect us to be able to, even though you looked at those arrows and one looked longer, right? They expect us to be something other than our very nature. That needs to change. So the second group of you guys in here that may not be trying to wing it, but might be saying, just suck it up. This isn't going to be bad for too long, or it's not a big deal. Be insert noun here. Here's the problem with that. We experience a situation, when I mentioned bandwidth tax earlier, where we are fundamentally drunk and we don't even know it. There's no way that we can connect with this fact except knowing the science and being able to gauge in some indirect fashion. So we're fundamentally operating as if we're drunk most of the time. If we're experiencing scarcity trauma, we're operating as if we're drunk. This is so obvious. People have burnout. People have a long day at work. People need to relax. People don't want to be bothered. Yes. If you have too much going on, you're burnt out. So we have things that occur at regular intervals in our lives. We have, especially with money, things that cost different amounts, things that happen at different times, expenses. This is also true for time. Different tasks require different number of spoons or different amounts of energy, all spaced out differently. And they're all valued differently intuitively. So how do we connect to that intuitive emotion, that intuitive value, and that sense of awareness? How do we do that? I am going to, when this becomes a webinar, I'm going to link and integrate right into this part a video of a scientist from Harvard University that talks about this phenomena called bandwidth tax. So when this becomes a webinar, this section is going to be cut out, but I'm going to summarize it for you. These two professors, one from Harvard and one from Princeton, teamed up. And one of them, or actually both of them, discovered this phenomena called bandwidth tax. Bandwidth tax is the effect of being fundamentally drunk because we're focused on too much stuff. And here's how they showed it. And they've done so many studies. This is one of my favorites. This is one of the ways that they showed it. So they went into a mall, the Jersey Gardens Mall. It's here in America. It's in New Jersey. It's an incredibly affluent mall. There's a Tesla dealership, at least when I went there a couple of years ago. There was a Tesla dealership in that mall, in the mall, inside. It's an indoor mall. It's not a strip mall. There's a Tesla dealership in the mall. Affluent area. And so they asked people a question and then had them take an IQ test. And the question was one of two. One of them is, if you had to do a repair on your car and it cost $500, would you take out a loan, do it now, or do it later? And then they had that group take an IQ test. They then asked another group, if you had to do a repair on your car and it cost $1,500, so 3 times the amount, right? Would you take out a loan, do it now, or do it later? They have them take an IQ test. Now, it doesn't matter what their answers were. In fact, I don't even know. It's probably in the research. What matters is that that group that got the second question scored 10 points lower across the board from one question because they are inhibited or fundamentally restricted in their ability to make a decision. Why is that? It's only one question, right? No, it's not. The bigger the cost, whether it's the timing or the rhythm of things, whether it's the emotional investment that you have to make, or the money investment that you have to make, whether it's something that causes and creates this sense of constriction or something that you're biased about, or any of these limitations that I've described. It's kind of like having an underpacked suitcase versus an overpacked suitcase. In the situation of an underpacked suitcase, if you're shopping and you want to buy something, just buy it, throw it in the suitcase, problem solved. But that's the one question, really simple, right? Have to do a repair on your car, $500, done. Okay, overpacked suitcase. Overpacked suitcase, you buy something and now the decision isn't, do I want the thing? It's not a value-based decision. Are we noticing a trend here? It's a decision based on how much room you have in your suitcase. And that's not the only decision. It's a decision based on what you have to take out in order to make room, what you have to adjust in your budget in order to compensate, what you have to shift around in your day in order to make this really important thing work. And so with that situation, where we fundamentally have to adjust our perception, it's not even just about what we have to take out. It's also about the value of everything that we have to take out in relationship to the value of what we're putting in. So it's not just one decision, but it's exponentially more depending on what's taking up space. So that's the idea with bandwidth tax. Not a single system, not one. Find me one. I challenge you. There should be a form underneath this video, whether it's on Facebook or somewhere else. If you can find one system that specifically tailors itself to alleviating bandwidth tax, send it to me. I have not found one system that focuses on this and considers it the primary objective, which means every system is operating as if we're drunk. Even though this is the primary problem we have as a species. Even though, back to those money statistics, 64% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and suicide is 1.1% of the population. This is a problem. So the way we do things has to change. And that's what we're going to do. You may have noticed by now in these metaphors or examples that money is never about money. It's always about something bigger. It's always about what is this bigger thing? It's about how we manage scarcity. How do we manage scarcity? How do you manage scarcity? Based on what I just presented to you, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We need to do it better. So, how do we manage scarcity? Well, just like we did with scarcity and trauma, now that we know what we're talking about, it's back all the way up. What am I teaching you here? How to prioritize. Okay? What is prioritization? Prioritization has completely lost its meaning. Is it importance? Well, that's relative. It's relative to our biases. It's relative to what we're trying to perceive. Is it urgency? Thought we just went over that, but it's not urgency. Urgency is a limitation. Is it responsibility? Well, that requires accountability and awareness. And those are two very biased things, unless you have a way to measure them that's not. So what is it? What is the thing that makes this all work? Well, it's a combination of three things. It's broken up into three parts. In order to prioritize, we need to have awareness. But in order to be non-biased about that awareness, we need to be able to calculate an emotional net value. So remember, every decision we're making emotionally. That's the nature of being alive. And because we're making every decision emotionally, it's always about the value versus the cost. Is the value of what I'm trying to choose or do greater than the cost of doing that? And in order to figure that out, we have a tool I'll talk about in a bit. It also, what is prioritization? So emotional net value, which is value and cost of your intensity. It also has to do with alignment. How close are you to the overall life direction that you're headed? How close are you to the overall life directions that you're headed? Or do you know if you have a life direction? So how do you know if you're on point? So we need alignment. It also is due to urgency. Urgency is important. It's not the only thing. So urgency, we already talked about it. It's what's happening closer to now. We are going to have to consider it. It does matter. We are time-based beings. And if we think about prioritization, what's the feeling that comes up for you? So I like to think of it as a sound. Oh, I don't want to do it. Oh, and you could spell that UGH or EAU for emotional net value, alignment, and urgency. Oh, or it's probably more like, yeah, I don't want to do it. Tells you what it is. All right, let's break this down even more. So what is urgency? I looked up the definition to this one. Urgency is importance, requiring swift action. But the need for swift is relative. So what you think is urgent today may not be urgent in a week. You know, if it's an impulsive desire, if you feel like you have to do something to either feel better or to be happy or whatever the purpose is. There's a lot of people that talk about don't do something for an end goal. Whatever the purpose is, if you're doing something now that may not be in alignment with that bigger goal, that could be something that you think is urgent. But what you think might be urgent may not be. You could also have a situation where you're looking forward ahead and you're saying, hey, I need to prepare for this. So it's urgent that I prepare now, but it's not urgent today. So urgency has something to do with how we perceive time, right? In the neurodiverse world, where I come from, the autism and ADHD space, this is referred to as a time horizon. It's referred to as how far ahead can we look with confidence. Ironically, if we can look far enough ahead, we don't experience urgency. We can trust our perception far enough ahead, we don't experience urgency. So we're going to be addressing things like emotional net value and alignment as we go through, but urgency is one of those things that is relative. All right. So we've just broken down what prioritization is. Now let's talk about how to do it. We're going to talk about how to prioritize. In order to do that, just like anything else, we need to look at the 3 principles that are required for prioritization. What do we need to embody in order to prioritize, in order to reduce bandwidth, and in order to be able to make a good decision? Well, bandwidth can be caused, an impact to bandwidth can be caused by stuff that happens over and over and over again. So the first thing we want to do is only handle whatever decision we're making once. I'm going to show you exactly how we do that with the tool. That means that if we do that, there's no doubt about our decision, and there's no rechecking. It's handled, it's done. That's the ideal. That's what we want. We also need to consider relevance. In order to consider relevance, we have to reduce the number of things that we're focused on. That's the whole point of relevance. Is it relevant now or later? We talked about this a little while ago when we broke down prioritization. The idea of, is it relevant now or later? It creates less bandwidth tax, but it's not the only consideration. Finally, we have to consider rhythm, or the frequency with which something happens. The more regular or recurring or almost automatically something happens, it creates certainty. You know you're going to wake up in the morning, no doubt about that, right? So those are the principles that make up prioritization. The way I like to remember these is if we don't know these principles, we're going to try to prioritize, we're going to have trouble, right? So we need to know these principles, or else, ORR, or else. Only handle it once, relevance and rhythm, or else. Okay, so those are the principles. How do we implement them? Let's break down prioritization into 3 parts. It's really simple. The sequence, so the order that we're doing something in, makes a big difference. If we do stuff out of order, you don't have bandwidth. The structure in which we're doing it. I'm sure if those scientists ask the question, or psychologists ask the question, okay, $1,500 payment, but $500 this year, $500 next year, and $500 the year after, it would be a totally different result. So how we structure things makes a big difference. Structure, we're going to talk about. Structure affects relevance because it reduces the number of things if we're consolidating, or gives us more things if we're not. And it gives us a sense of certainty. Even in the words that I'm using right now, I'm abbreviating the full meaning of what I'm saying into these words. I'm certain because I've reviewed all the meanings and what I mean and gone over them several times. Rhythm, that's the third one, the rhythm. So regular, recurring, almost automatic habit. Oh, we just talked about rhythm. Scratch that. 3 parts. 3 principles, the or else, right? 3 parts, sequence, structure. What's the third? A safety net. So a safety net. Those are the 3 S's, sequence, structure, and safety net. So now we have a sequence to do things in, which defines our relevance. It defines what's most important, that's number 1, next most important, number 2, next most important, number 3. If we have 10 things and we have them sequenced, we get items 1 through 4 done, very likely the other things aren't as important or relevant. But what happens if we don't get them all done? How do we handle it? That's when the safety net's important. We're going to talk about a couple of those here today. So we have, if we don't know the principles, well, we need to know the principles, or else. We have the 3 S's for the 3 parts of prioritization. And now we're going to talk about the 3 steps. First, we create awareness. We need to have a full awareness of everything that we want to prioritize. Then we need an intention. In order to have alignment, we need an intention. And we also need accountability. How do we know that we're in integrity with what we wanted? How do we know for sure that we are following our own plan? That is all handled. All of these things, the problems we pointed out, biases, trauma, the scarcity trauma, trust, prioritization, urgency, the principles of prioritization, the three parts of prioritization, and the steps. Those are all handled. Those are all handled in the solution right now. We're going to get into a bit about the solution. And for you folks on Facebook, let me know if you want the full webinar. Drop a I'm in chat. If you are watching this in the webinar, you're going to see the whole thing. You may not even have heard that. I think we're going to cut that out. What does this solution need to be able to do? And by the way, this is what the solution does. It needs to prioritize with full awareness of emotion. It needs to be able to create minimal bandwidth tax or taxa our bandwidth minimally, right? We can't be drunk trying to be in alignment. And it needs to take into account everything we just talked about. The three aspects of priority, the three principles of priority, the three parts of priority, and the three steps. Now, with those steps, I didn't give you an acronym. I forgot to do that. So let's talk about that. Those steps: awareness, intention, and accountability. AIA. I. Sense of relief. I. So the three steps give us relief. So we need, this tool is going to give you the three aspects of priority. The three aspects. The three parts. Interesting. Where did I put that? All right, we obviously have to cut this part out because I'm confused. Hang tight. Yes, the three aspects. Ugh, right? Ugh, those three aspects that we talked about. Then the three principles of priority. We're going to see how this tool does that. We need to have this tool do that, or else. Three parts of priority. What are the three parts? They're the three S's: sequence, structure, and safety. We're also going to have the three steps in order to get there. Three steps. So this is what it looks like. I am going to show you the tool, and then we are going to break down how this tool works. I'm going to try to zoom into the tool so I can show you the tool. 1 second. Actually, you know what? We'll just stay zoomed out. So this is the tool. It is a spreadsheet on steroids. This tool, we're going to break down everything you're seeing here. All the colors, all the columns, all the numbers, all the everything. And by the end of this webinar, you're going to understand how this tool can solve scarcity trauma. So let's get into it. How does it work? What are we looking at here? Well, it's important to know that there's more than just this tool, but this is the only one that I'm going to get into. This is the tool that ties all the others together. It's called the Budget Blueprint, and it helps you master prioritization in 7 steps. If we take into account everything else that we've talked about, we take into account that essence of prioritization. So in order to understand what's really going on with this tool, we have to get a sense of really what we're looking at. By the end of this training, like I said, you're going to fully understand what I just showed you. Here it is again, a little bit zoomed in so that you can see things a little closer, taking out some data. You know what? I'm actually going to show you this one. Oops, weird. Stop. I'm going to show you, here we go, this one. So you can see all the things that you're looking at. So this is the tool. You're looking at it right now. Wish I could move things around here. Here we go. So here's what you need to know. We're going to be budgeting everything that we're accounting for. This is $0 budgeting. It's a technique in finance. The reason for that is because everything is intentional. We also can look at this and get a quick sense. In general, the colors, the brighter the color, so the brighter the red, yellow, those brighter colors indicate relevance. So you can look at exactly, different columns indicate different things, but they indicate relevance. The darker, the more powerful. We're going to read this from left to right and top to bottom. So if we want to break this down into incremental steps and we want to make this easily digestible, let's go one step at a time. I'm going to show only the first two steps for you guys on Facebook. Again, if you want the whole webinar, but I'm in chat. If you have any questions, also let me know in the chat. So first, let's talk about sequence. And in order to do that, we need to pull up thing and share the screen. So here is this tool with some things blanked out. The reason why they're blanked out is because we want to go one step at a time. So sequence. The entire list that you're seeing here in this first column is for all the money, for all the things, for all the intentions, rather. So instead of bucket, you can substitute bucket for intentions. These are all the things within our awareness. Now, the truth is, I have a lot more intentions than this. I have, I think, 80 that span down this whole list, but I'm just zoomed in to break this sheet down. So imagine trying to prioritize 80 things. It would be very difficult. Now, remember, awareness is the first of 3 steps of priority. So we already have awareness. We've made a whole list. We don't need to be afraid of the list. We've made a whole list. We said that this sheet is read from left to right, top to bottom. So only focusing on this column here. These are all the intentions, and there's more that we have. You may notice that they go in an order. So this order is the sequence. It's an order of perceived value. You may remember that sequence is one of the parts of priority. The result of sequencing, like we talked about, is relevance. So the things that are at the bottom are less relevant. Things that are at the top are more relevant, and relevance is one of the principles of priority. So already, by creating a sequence and creating full awareness, we've tackled 1/3 of what it means to prioritize. In order to do this in a way that is unbiased, we have a tool called Decisions on Demand. We'll link to it underneath. That tool will allow you to take any list, anything you're aware of, and prioritize it. With our guidance, and there are some training videos on it, you can be incredibly unbiased about it and end up with a sequenced list that is completely unbiased. You can ask me how I do that another time. So, at this point, we have created awareness and we have removed recency biases, perception biases, and if we use decisions on demand, emotional biases. This list that we're aware of can be created not just in one moment in time, but it can be a list that you add to over multiple moments in time. So this can be the summation of the past several months or even years. You might wonder how I got a list of 80 things. I've been using this for quite a while. So we've eliminated biases and we've already helped our prioritization. Now, some of these things are single items, like rent, that's a single item. But some of these things are also groups, things that I can consider one thing and that are structured. Now, remember, structure is one of the parts of priority. And so when we're looking at groups, when we're considering groups, we have to think about, can we trust the structure? And just to show you guys what I mean, here's a preview of how some of these groups break down. We have consolidated infrastructure. That's all the stuff I use for my business. This is like 30 things that I'm just putting in one group. Supplements, emergency, things like that. Those are all groups. And those groups, let's go back to the blank sheet here. Those groups allow me to not have 400 things listed. They allow me to have 70. And some of these are single things, and I could group them a little bit better. In the app that we're building, we will end up having the ability to have groups inside of groups. But right now, we can only go one group deep. So consolidated infrastructure is right here. 30 things, just write down. Household stable is another example, and there's several others. Now, some of these things are things that are pretty easy to explain, like consolidated infrastructure. But just like anything, when you start to master something, or when you start to understand something better, there's always going to be ways that you use the system that make the system work for you. So there's some things here like flex pending, like off the top, like household stable, that are created because of how this works, not because they're intuitive. Although, by understanding how this whole system works, they're intuitive to me, and they can be intuitive to you. You will have an understanding of how to create groups in a way that works for the system and for you. I want to be crystal clear that these groups, like household stable, flex pending, and off the top, these groups are groups that have the exact same effect of these easier to understand groups, like consolidated infrastructure. They're just not as direct, right? They don't mean things as directly. So the second thing that we need to think about is awareness. That's column 2. So column 1 is about sequencing, which establishes relevance. It establishes priority, one of the 3 parts of it, and it establishes awareness. But we need to create awareness around the costs of things. So that's column 2. This spreadsheet that you're looking at is currently set to a weekly ask or a weekly requirement. And this column 2 isn't a budget. It's just what is represented by our intentions. It's just the cost of our intentions. For some people, I actually hide this column because it creates too much bandwidth text to look at. But I have it shown so you can understand that we're looking at awareness. What is it awareness of? The cost. So what did we do already? We started with the value of everything. We started with intention setting. And the reason we did that is because without intentions, we're just flopping around in the dark. We're heavily biased and we're limited. Not starting with intentions creates scarcity trauma. So we started with intentions. But now we need to come and take a look at costs. What do things cost? And the reason we need to look at costs is because things cost stuff. They occupy things. Like we can't ignore cost. Now, I mentioned this is weekly. This software, which you can have, is able to adjust to any interval, right? Remember before we mentioned a regular interval, it's able to adjust to fortnightly or monthly. Multiple intervals are available to you whenever, but I'm going to use weekly in this training. Whenever you hear weekly, oh, I can draw. I forgot that I could draw somehow. So what we're looking at is everything here in weekly ask. Let's feel darker. Looking at everything under weekly ask, and can't make it darker. All right, I guess I can. Looking at everything under weekly ask. And so we can, again, break this down by any interval you want. But whenever you hear weekly, we are going to be talking about things that are where we've aligned the rhythm, right? Where we've got this regular check-in. How we get things to be weekly are another conversation. That's something we can handle offline, but this is weekly. It eliminates that variance in frequency that we were talking about. So remember, rhythm is the second principle of priority. It's the second thing that it's one of those 3 principles. So here's how we create a regular rhythm. Now, if you feel that you've stalled, if you feel that your life is just stalled and you keep having Groundhog Day over and over again, it's because what you're not aware of is that there are things that are taking up a good portion of your bandwidth or of your, you're putting a lot of resource toward this cost. And I put some arrows next to the highest ones. So earlier on, when I talked about the colors showing relevance, this bright color here is the most relevant thing. When I have money, which you'll see in some of the subsequent trainings, some of the rest of this webinar rather, later on, when I have money, if I don't make this much in a week, this item cannot be addressed. So if you feel stalled, it's because something is consuming your money. This shows it to you right away. And you should know this. The way that we calculate weekly, like I talked about before, the way that we calculate weekly is, whoa, sorry, I just had a little computer bug here. The way that we calculate weekly is completely automatic. So in this tool and in some of the other tools that you can use, you don't need to do any math or anything. It'll just do this for you. You can enter expenses any way you want, whether it's monthly, weekly, fortnightly, yearly, it doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter. Like you can say, I don't know, and it'll still do this. That might sound too good to be true. Stick around. We're going to cover that though near the end when I go over FAQs. I'm going to show you how I do that. I'll still bring up the actual input. Now, we've gone over the ideal sequence. We're now talking about the awareness column. This second column here. And this helps us be able to calculate what it would take to live a certain lifestyle. So if we assume that our intentions are for everything that we want, then we can also assume that as far down this list as we get, just like we would with our time, as far down this list as we get, that'll be the lifestyle that we have. If we continually get to a certain point and then sometimes get to other points, well, we're trying to stabilize that lifestyle. And of course, because of that, because of all these other factors that we haven't talked about, we do have to cover the exceptions. And sometimes those exceptions allow us to have a little more or a little bit less. But by recognizing that all this rhythm is aligned, we can very easily figure out what we need to make, and we can figure out how far along that path we are. You should also know that these are all, you notice they're all whole dollar figures. So they're all rounded up, maybe to the nearest dollar. I'm not going to tell you. They're all rounded up a little bit. And they're rounded up because if we round up, we naturally will have more. I had an ebook several years ago called 5 Ways to Have More at the End of the Month. And one of those ways was to round up. So we've talked about how this awareness can create a map to the lifestyle that you want and how far along you are. We've talked about how having an awareness of all the things that you want can help you. What we haven't done is plugged in all of the amounts of money that we have and how that all plays out. Now, these are 2 steps. Stop this share for a second. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. This intention list and sequence and this level of breaking things down into a weekly amount, these are 2 steps that nobody else is teaching. And most people start their budgeting with what we're about to talk about, which is living within your means. How do you calculate that? So we intentionally have been showing this sheet mostly blank. And the reason for that is that we don't want to consider our costs or what we can or can't do or what our means are or what we're able to do until we are certain about what we value. So until we have all of our intentions figured out, and until we are certain about the sequence, and until we have aligned all the rhythms, all the weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever, things that cost money or time or energy. And until we've done that, we aren't clear. And I say that we're not clear because imagine if you said, oh, I've only got $200. Well, it would really stress you out to see only 2 of these things being filled, and you wouldn't be able to unbiasedly assess whether or not you're clear. So this software will blank out everything until you're clear. And it will also consider the 3rd part priority. So we've already covered all 3 parts. Well, we're about to cover the 3rd. What to do when you run out of money. And so we haven't plugged in how much money we have yet, because we want to have an unbiased decision. What we do when we run out of money answers the question, what intentions are relevant? So of these, what are we going to address? It handles that situation of relevance. It handles the question of how much to allocate to which ones, to which of these intentions. And, if we can't make it too far down this list, well, what do we do with all these other intentions? How do we shuffle them around? How much do we keep, if anything? And there's also several other factors that we can integrate, like pleasure, emotion, the value of others, or group priorities. But for now, we're only going to be illustrating this next safety net, which means that when we run out of money, it'll just put the rest of whatever's left toward the next thing. There are 6 different ways to prioritize. There are 6 different methods to do this. And the one that we're going to continue to talk about is the safety net. So let's look at what it looks like when we plug money. Here is, well, what just happened? I thought I clicked the button. Guess I didn't click the button. Hang on. Oh, I have to zoom in, so screwing some stuff up here. Okay. Here is what happens when I plug in $850. This isn't a function of awareness anymore. Now, what we're talking about is what to do. We're starting to get into the plan. This is what happens when I plug in 850. A lot more stuff shows up. And for the sake of this example, let's just look at this column right here. What can I afford? Most people start the process of budgeting here. Now, what can I afford? But the truth is that if you start your process of budgeting here, you're in scarcity, because you will want to move things around to feel good. But if we move things around to feel good first and create the awareness and the structure and create this consistent rhythm, now it becomes a lot easier. You'll see we're doing some other stuff here, but what can I afford? Well, everything under planned is what you can afford. And this line here with the redacted information and behind is the last thing that you can afford. So why does the money only go so far? Well, remember the sequence that you made. That was an ideal sequence. And remember that you always want more than what you have. And remember that you only have so much. And because you always want more than what you have, you're never going to get all the way to everything that you want, especially if you've overcome some scarcity trauma. So if you want to create scarcity trauma, start with the question, what can I afford? And then try to work backwards and eliminate, none of these other things are relevant. But if I didn't consider any of these other things or even put them down or even calculate them, then I would be very dissatisfied. What I can trust by looking at this is that I'm accounting for everything. So I'm fully aware of all the things I want. They're all valued. They're all prioritized, and they all are, the rhythm is all aligned for all of them. So at this point, come back to this in a second. So at this point, we've already handled about, 58% of what it means to prioritize. We've covered 2 of the 3 principles of priority. We've covered all 3 parts, all 3 of the components of prioritization. We've covered 1 of the 3 steps, which is sequencing. I think it's sequencing. I have it right, if I remember correctly. That's funny. We've covered 1 of the 3 steps. It's awareness, actually. It's creating awareness around all those things. And we've covered 1 of the 3 aspects, and that is the overall alignment. So for you guys on Facebook, I am going to stop here. I'm going to stop here because I want to create the rest of the webinar and give you guys something to bite into. So if you want the full webinar when it's done, put a I'm in the comments or message me directly. I'm seeing this thing on Facebook. It's doing some really weird stuff about the hearts or some stars or something. To comment, I don't like that. If you want this webinar, it's free. Message me directly and I'll send it to you. If you aren't interested, tell me why. And if you're watching this webinar, probably not going to hear this anyway. Probably going to cut it out. So I'm going to stop the recording now. For all of you who joined me, thank you so much. I see that at least 5 people have joined this live, and I see that there are a couple of comments. So this has been great. I'm going to continue demonstrating the rest of those columns, how they specifically address all these parts of prioritization and scarcity, exactly what to do about them.